Hi, my name is Aviad, and I'm leading the generative research at ZyG. And today we're going to talk about the challenges in developing multimodal agents at scale. And before we dive into that, a bit about ZyG. We're going to do it through an example. Imagine you've developed some physical product. It could be cream, supplements, pills, anything. And you start selling it to your close neighborhood, friends, family, the city, and the product is amazing. Everybody loves it. And you decided to go worldwide. So Shopify has made it really easy to launch a shop. You can put your product on the shop and people can start looking. There are over 10 million Shopify shops right now. Amazon has made it really easy to ship and basically been the biggest marketplace on earth currently. And yet, most great products don't reach this scale phase. They fail somewhere along the way, even though they're really good. And that's where ZyG comes. ZyG is building the agentic operating system for e-com scale. And we're going to talk a bit about what that even means. So once an entrepreneur decided to go scale, he suddenly finds out he needs to tackle multiple verticals, a brand and a store, handle the creatives, user acquisition, organic growth, conversion of potential customers, retention of current customers, and logistics. Actual warehouses that he needs to talk with. And not only these are usually not the expertise of the entrepreneur. Usually, it doesn't only mean to handle each one of these. They all need to work in unison. You need to make sure they're all combined. And ZyG basically says, I'm going to help you focus on the product, and I'm going to take care of all the rest. And in each of these sections, nowadays in regular agencies, people are taking care of it. In order to actually accommodate for such vast amount of scale, there are going to be agents in each vertical that are connected to each other. Specifically, we're going to talk now about creative agents and how we generate creatives at scale for actual products that people are eventually going to buy, and how they make them appealing so they will actually convert people. So that's ZyG. Was founded a year ago, raised 120 million from top investors. And let's talk a bit about the problem. So creativity at scale. So just to understand what scale means, nowadays, every week, we handle tens of brands. Each brand have tens of products, which needs a weekly campaign, and each campaign has roughly 3 to 5 assets. These assets, so it's thousands in assets need to be generated each week. Generated and uploaded. These assets are multimodal. They're images, videos that comes with audio. And generating them is really tough. And why it's tough? Because inherently, generating a creative product, let it be text, images, videos, is an out-of-distribution sampling problem. These models learn to model the modality that they see, for example, a video, and they follow the distribution. If you try to sample from the distribution naively, you usually get the average answer. For example, if I'm going to ask ChatGPT, hey, ChatGPT, tell me a joke. That's what I'm going to get. A man tells his doctor, doctor, I think I'm invisible. The doctor says, who said that? It's a dad joke at most. So here we really try to understand how can we take the creativity out of these models to extract it. Another example here with images. The previous image that I just saw, I just previewed, see the tennis ball is orange and it has this logo. If I'm gonna naively ask for it to for a model to generate like Nano Banana, even Nano Banana Pro, like the most capable one, an editorial shot of a tennis player playing with orange tennis ball with the attached logo on it, 3 out of 4 times, I'm gonna get things that are weird. And this is the tension, how to push the model out of its distribution without getting to the artifact territory. And how to do it on scale, because we don't want to generate hundreds of images just to pick one. So how to do it robustly. On top of that, each of the brands has its specific audience that needs specific way to approach it and specific ideas that will interest him, specific unique selling points, and a specific visual identity, colors, the camera angles, the brand's visual identity. So each brand needs to solve a bit of a different problem. And we try to do all of them. Enter the ZyG Creative Factory. That's what we're building in the creative department. And the idea, and I'm going to go through the stages, is basically build a factory of agents, and each one of them should be creative in his own territory. So, like a regular thought process of an artist that needs to make this. We start with an ideation. We need to find interesting ideas that talk about the brand, ideas that the audience can relate to, sometimes viral ideas, if there are trends, how to ride the trend. About 10% or 5% of the ideas pass to the next stage. Once we got a good idea, we start working on a script for it. Going from an idea to an entire video in this example means not only the idea should be interesting, also the presentation. Most of the videos don't survive because of a bad hook, like the first 4 seconds. So how do I create a good angle? And how do I keep the story intact? All of this is still text. It's not even images. Later, the next part is how we actually gonna translate each of these scenes into the modality that we want. For example, videos. And how can we generate, if we decide of generating a commercial, how can we generate multiple scenes, keep it coherent, while each scene is free of artifacts, enticing on its own, and usually involves A-roll, B-roll, and different aspects. Fourth part is video editing, a problem that most research don't even deal with, and it's a hard part on its own. It's not the video editing in means like said about image editing. It's actually editing the entire raw footage into a coherent commercial. it's where to put the cuts, where to put the A-roll, where to put the B-roll. And not only where are the interesting points, also technically, where specifically the moment that the actor, for example, doesn't look away, that I don't want to cut there. So it has a different levels. Eventually, we upload everything to the media. We start monitoring CPA. We pick out the winners. And each of them is going to be fed back. Only few survive for the next week. And the next week, we start all over again with the data from the last week. This area, specifically when you're working on direct to consumer or B2C, has some really unique challenges. One of them is the extreme visual fidelity in physics that we need to comply with. The crowd, the user, the viewer, has zero tolerance to AI-generated content, usually. And that's like one of the hardest issues in this realm. Another one is how we go. Now, each of these stops, today we have a human verifier that looks at the end of the stop and hopefully does minimal filtering. Yes. Mm-hmm.
What about the audio? No only video, virtual.
Yeah, so
the person that is talking and mostly AI generated audio, the performance really bad. Like this is the experience that user having. So how do you approach this?
No, it is. I'm going to address it then. And so the other one is removing the human in the loop as much as we can do. And the last one is inter-shot consistency in like massive amounts of data, not just 5 shots. So you ask about audio. Yeah, so similar with video, all of these videos contain audio because the commercials need to have audio. It's not just the video. And it is an issue also in video as well as in audio, how to get the nuances right and how to get the pitch and the flow and how a person actually speaks and not robotic. And a lot of it, we are working, it relates to these two possible solutions that we are working in all of these fields and we are always investigating what works best and what less. And across all of these issues, also in audio, the thing that mainly works is we take this issue and this problem and we convert it from a 0-shot problem to a few-shot problem. What does that mean? In the idea, we seed it with a lot of content that you actually get from the content creation team in ZyG that we work along with. And in audio is actually using based off recordings of actors sometimes as a seed for my audio generation, their voice, their timbre, and usually audio video is synced. We generate this together because it's much more fluent that way. There are some things that if you some scenes that if you pass the audio afterwards, it just won't fit because of environment and sounds and stuff like that. And you also take that into consideration in video editing as well, because even on the matter of speaking, even if I cut the video just a millisecond before the person finished to speak, or just after, and compare it to a professional editor, it won't go, it won't fly. And the human evaluators here, they are professional. They are really, each one of them is like an expert of this field. So it's like a really hard critique, but a lot of data that we gather along the way in order to keep improving the models in the pipeline. Also, we apply agentic quality controllers. It's easy to explain it in text, maybe like to evaluate an idea or something like that, but usually like the evaluator needs to be much smarter than the generator in order to even evaluate it. And that's like a question of its own. How do you feed it with that information? But you also do it for images, for video, and for audio as well. Some of these include classical techniques, like checking for distortion and stuff like that. And some of these are more semantic. And basically, that's what we do in the creative, indeed. And if you have any more questions,